Welcome back. I'm glad you're still with us here on Morning at NTV. There's been a very vibrant discussion behind the scenes that, of course, tries to filter into some of the aspects about Uganda's socio-economic life that many of us do grapple with on a daily basis. Those are some of the snippets that we shall be talking about as we discuss the open budget survey process and, of course, understanding the role of the legislature and supreme audit institutions in the budget process. I'll be introducing my guests very shortly, very interesting persons who will be talking to us about some of the matters that you may be grappling with on a daily basis. But government decisions, what taxes to levy, the services to provide, and how much debt to take on have important consequences on the people in any one society across the country. When governments provide information and meaningful channels for the public to engage in some of this decision making, then there is better public money expenditure that is done in public interest. Despite efforts from the Uganda Ministry of Finance, Planning and Economic Development to establish pre-budget deliberations during budget formulation and e-consultations during the budget implementation process, there is need to further strengthen public participation in the budget process. A lot more gaps still need to be bridged, a reason for critical assessment reviews for the budget, and much more lessons to be learned. Today, there's a lot that we are going to learn. Principal economist, budget and policy evaluation at the Ministry of Finance, Planning and Economic Development is Mr. I do completely get, I was supposed to speak to Henry Sebekera, but we do have Charles Matavu, who has joined us this morning. You're a budget policy and evaluation specialist at the Finance Ministry. My apologies for the hiccup there. I also have Christine Birinjiro, Programs Manager at Uganda Debt Network. Uganda Debt Network.
Yes.
You guys are responsible for debt.
For responsible debt.
Responsible debt.
Yes.
Interesting there.
Yeah. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. Now, the Open Budget Survey, I do have a booklet with me here that has been put together by the International Budget Partnership, and the Uganda Debt Network is pretty much one of those. It speaks about 2023 overview that is being released today. Why don't you first take us through what's going to be happening? What are you launching?
Yes, thank you. So today we are going to be launching the Open Budget Survey, and this is a research, the world's only independent, comparative and regular assessment of national budgets, and specifically against the parameters of transparency, accountability, public participation, as well as oversight of the national budget process. And why is it the world's only comparative? Because the data that is collected from the various countries is then compared against, against those parameters for the different countries, but also independent, because the methods of collection is independent. It does not involve governments directly in the collection of the data. It's done by independent experts or academia for the different countries, and regularly, because this is undertaken every 2 years biannual. And so the results that come out of this is what we are going to be launching today, of course, alongside the National Budget Month engagement with the Ministry of Finance.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Allow me to stay with you shortly on this, because I need to understand the foundational aspect of this survey. Yes. The budget is out. The budget framework paper is done and dusted. We are simply waiting for the reading. Some people do think the reading of the budget is actually that brings about new stuff, but things are already rolling out. Isn't the survey too late? Should it happen a little bit earlier than this point?
Yeah, so the survey is undertaken every 2 years, like I mentioned, and specifically this one was undertaken to consider events or documentation relating to the budget that was available as at December 2022. So it is still within the parameters of the law. And why we do this is because we want to see government performance in as far as the budget processes are concerned. Is government transparent enough? And of course, we shall see the mark. Is the budget comprehensive? Does it avail information to enable citizen participation in the budget process? Are there oversight structures that are working? And so all that is what we consider.
All right.
Yes.
Shortly, we shall be going into the comprehensive nature of this particular document in as far as understanding whether the budget itself is as comprehensive as it ought to be. But allow me come to Mr. Charles Matovu. These are the kind of things that make the Minister of Finance uncomfortable.
I'm not so sure uncomfortable, but go ahead, yes.
Because they seek to avail a score on transparency. I also see aspects that include public availability of budget documents. These are things that, for example, pre-budget statement, executive budget proposal, the enacted budget, the citizens' budget. It speaks to the ability of the Ministry of Finance, working under the aegis of the government, to do extensive consultation with whoever is affected directly during the budget process. And this might have its own shortfalls on whether it's conducted in a timely manner or in an exhaustive manner. That is where my question about whether you actually, or rather the fact that you find these uncomfortable times, you may not find them uncomfortable, because the Minister of Finance has shown over the last few years that it's pretty much in a comfortable position in as much as driving economic policy is concerned. But take it on. What do you make of the budget survey and everything in it?
First of all, just thank you very much for hosting myself and our partners, Uganda Debt Network. Thank you, Christine. You're welcome. So, are we uncomfortable with the open budget survey? No, we are not uncomfortable. Since many years ago, Ministry of Finance has been a champion of budget transparency, promoting budget transparency, and promoting citizens' participation. In fact, citizens' participation is enshrined in our law. In the Constitution, government is mandated and obligated to involve citizens and various stakeholders in the budget formulation process. So we are not in any way uncomfortable. Besides, we have a number of initiatives that government is implementing towards transparency and citizens' participation. Of course, the starting one is the collaboration with our civil society partners. Uganda Debt Network, we have other civil society groups, civil society budget advocacy group, and the rest. So we collaborate with them. We have memorandums of understanding. We try to work together to bring out all the information. We have the budget website where we load all the information about the budget, anything about the budget. The information that I have, you can have it. If you navigate the budget website and go through it and look at every ministry, department, and agency, and even local government, you will find all the information you want. We also have the toll-free number, 0800 229 229. That one helps to give out information if someone needs clarification, maybe about some information he has seen on the budget website, or maybe some additional information needs from finance. And actually, people are calling the toll-free line to get information about various things that they would want to discuss and handle. So, by and large, we are not uncomfortable. We are very, very comfortable, and would like to promote budget transparency, largely because budget transparency enhances accountability. When we are transparent, people know what we are doing, and together with them, we enhance accountability, we enhance service delivery. Because when a person knows that we are supposed to have money for 16 boreholes in Chabadundu sub-county somewhere, he will make sure that the money is actually used to deliver the 16 boreholes. If it's not used to deliver he can alert either the local leaders, the local councillors. He can call for clarification or even alerting Ministry of Finance, the toll-free line. He won't be charged any single penny. So there are a lot of various activities that we are doing towards transparency. Okay. We are not uncomfortable in any way.
All right.
Thank you.
Let me just stick to the citizens' budget, and this one goes to Christine Birinjiru. Yes. In 2022-2023, I see the report detailing the fact that the citizens' budget, which is a simpler and less technical version of the government's executive budget proposal or the enacted budget designed to convey key information to the public, was published late. When such a document is labeled as published late, it means there are consequences. It means the time has been killed, decisions may have been made the wrong way, and critical feedback perhaps missed on the part of the citizens. How are we on that?
Yeah, so thank you. Maybe just to take you back a little bit, there are 8 key documents which are assessed by the Open Budget Survey. Yeah. And these are, for our case, the National Budget Framework Paper. Then we have the draft estimates, which is the executive's proposal. Yeah. Then we have the approved estimates, which is the enacted budget. Yeah. And then we have, of course, the Citizens Guide. And then we have the media report, the in-year reports, the annual report, and then the Auditor General's report. So during the survey or the data collection process, if, for example, the Citizens Guide to the budget is supposed to be published or made available to the public, maybe after enactment or approval of the budget. And so if this is then uploaded, because for purposes of the OBS, a document is considered availed to the public or publicly available if it is published on the official website of a government institution. And so in this case, the responsible institution, which is the Ministry of Finance. So during the assessment process, if this document was uploaded 3 months late, then it is considered not available to the public and or produced for internal use. And so during the assessment, we shall get not a 0, but it will be shown that the document was not available to the public. And so it is very critical that the aspect of time is put into consideration when making information available to the public to enable them make meaningful contribution to the budget process. Yes.
All right.
Yeah.
Now, with regard to audit institutions, many times we've seen the Auditor General does bring reports to the Parliament for consideration. So much, but what sometimes is unnerving is the fact that we are in 2024 and we get reports after the Auditor General has handed in a report for either the last year or the year before the last. And then it causes a lot of furor in the media about how much money was either misallocated or completely misused. And this was like 2 years ago. It means that within this period, money could be being siphoned, misallocated, misused, and we shall only come to know in 2026. This process seems to be one that does us dirty as citizens, because we would expect a little bit more effectiveness in knowing if we are dealing with 2023, 2024, at least immediately this information should be available in order to shape the policy for the next year and not miss a year or two before we can understand or get to know that such an amount of money was taken. I know the Ministry of Finance has a way it works around this, but it's still not satisfactory.
That's an interesting discussion because one, we must take note that of the fact that the budget, the financial starts in July and ends in June.
That's right.
So the June of the previous year, that's when the financial closes. The accounting officers are required to, by law, by the Public Finance Management Act, to put together their accounts. and account to the government, that is through Accountant General. Thereafter, Auditor General goes and audits those accounts. So there is a lag between the time the financial closes and the accounting officers submit the accounts, about 3 months. The Auditor General is required to conclude the accounts, or to finalize the audit of the accounts for the previous year, I think 6 months after, according to the law. So that lag is normally what would make people uncomfortable. For example, we're in 23-24. The report for 22-23 should have been out around December.
That's right.
Yeah. So the time lag, it's not so big, but it's a bit uncomforting. But we should also take note of the fact that the budget, given that the budget starts in July, the lag of 6 months is not necessarily enough for someone to take more money, whatever, because Auditor General is going to audit and investigate and find out about the use of the money for the previous year, while this year has already started. The investigation is ongoing while this year has already started. So as he provides the results of information and of his investigation, and these are to Speaker, to the Parliament, this information is used during execution of the budget for the running financial year, and even for subsequent financial years. I guess that's why sometimes you hear there are sanctions against this accounting officer here and there while the year is running. Okay. Yes.
Now, Ms. Birinjiro, however small the lag might be, when you hear the technocrats speaking, they might dismiss it, but everything has consequences. Even if it's just 24 hours and a decision taken might either lead to a delay in delivery of a critical service to far-flung areas of the country. What is the cost of these lags, if you've been able to compute any of them?
Yes, we haven't computed them in terms of finances.
How are we supposed to understand?
Yes, what we actually know is that this costs us a lot, definitely, because there is so much that we have seen that has been lost and not recovered. But most importantly, I think and I believe that it is, and again, as reflected in the survey, we need to see citizen participation at all the major processes of the budget, to try and minimize some of these instances. For example, when the Auditor General presents his audit report to Parliament, as Parliament is considering the report, does it invite the public to come and, scrutinize and share their views on the report as well?
That's right.
Because that is also measured in the OBS against public participation. So what has come out is that we tend to see more of government engagement of the public or the citizens at the beginning, during the beginning times of the budget processes. But towards implementation, we see more of reduced, engagements. And then at the end, when we are doing an analysis, when we are assessing, we don't see any citizen engagement, And if you will bear me witness that usually what we budget for is not what we spend. So the resources that we have budgeted for, if we end up not spending as budgeted, do we have a justifiable reason? And so that is why we need to see the citizen come out and engage at all these various, And we have seen, thanks to the previous OBS recommendations, we have seen some recommendations, for example, that citizens should be engaged at the audit process. And the Auditor General's office came up, I think, in 2023 at the beginning, and launched the Citizens Feedback Platform. Now, this encourages or enables the citizen to inform the audit processes, because they are able to identify service, areas that are gone wrong, or, and then send this to the Auditor General, of course, with evidence, to be able to come and, audit what happened here. We spent this much money. And so we see these are, of course, desirable. We want to see Parliament engage more the citizens, and that is one of the reasons why we are always lagging behind. We see the Auditor General's oversight role tends to come out strongly in the open budget survey, but with Parliament, there are minimal spaces when they engage with the citizen at all the various stages of the budget process.
Okay.
Yeah.
What I do here, Mr. Matovu, when I listen to the lady from Uganda Date Network, is a case of citizens having a bit of participation in the planning stage, but completely neglected in the implementation stage. I would understand that, because what the policymakers want is your views on what they should do. So when it comes to implementation, the citizens do not have the mandate, nor the ability to be able to implement a budget. But if you don't mind, take us through what point do the various institutions involve the public, and on what matters is the public involved in? Because you might call, for example, a group of journalists to Parliament to witness a few things here and there, but those are journalists. But the average Ugandan who is prying the streets, do they get an opportunity to understand what the budget process is, and is their feedback actually important?
Thank you. First of all, I want to clarify, there are two aspects of that are measured, two key aspects that are measured in the open budget survey. One is transparency, the other is increased citizens' participation. Okay. Now, of course, her story and her line was that, yeah, we are struggling in the area of citizens' participation, especially after the budget is passed.
Budget is passed, yeah.
And another thing I want to mention before I come to the answer to your question is all the work we do towards promoting budget transparency, we do it as a whole of government approach. We work with Auditor General's office, we're trying to bring on board Parliament, we work various stakeholders, of course, together with civil society. That's right. So there could be gaps here and there, but we are working together to fix those gaps, and that's why we are looking forward to hearing from the airport. So, hearing about the airport. The various avenues through which we engage the citizens are many. But by the way, even when they take the report to Parliament and the parliamentarians discuss it, you are aware the parliamentarians are representatives of the what? Of the people. Of the people. But so we shall come to that. We shall come to that. We shall come to that.
Interesting
now,
there.
We begin the budget process. The first consultation during the budget process is the National Budget Conference.
Yeah.
Now, during the National Budget Conference, we invite the various ministry departments and agencies, local government leaders, accounting officers. We invite civil society, the clergy. We invite members of the diplomatic corps. So we invite a wide range of stakeholders to discuss the strategy for the budget that is going to be formulated for the next financial year. Thereafter, we hold regional budget consultations. So the budget conference is around September. Immediately after, we go for regional budget conference. Now, all this is enshrined in the what? In the law, like I told you, the Constitution mandates us and requires us to consult with the people. So we go out to the local governments, various teams, different, some to east, west, north, Soroti, where. And here we invite, of course, the local leaders, the political leaders, the chairpersons, the speakers. We have them, and at this meeting we discuss still the budget priorities that have been identified in line with the National Development Plan. The moment we finish those discussions, the local governments themselves are supposed to have district council meetings. Local government council meetings, the district or municipality sits as a council, which means these are representatives of the people. They bring the councillors. Those are very, very close to the people, because they interact with the people every day. So again, they engage, but yeah, of course, this is about the budget priorities and the strategic direction the country is taking, and any feedback about the previous implementation of the budget for the previous year. Then we have other national budget outreach activities, like during the budget month. During that time, we are interacting with the citizens. Of course, again, it's before the budget, but it's also to some sort of accountability for the previous year's budget. Previously at Kololo, before COVID locked us out, we used to have exhibition by various ministries, departments, and agencies, government agencies. At Kololo and elsewhere the management would determine. By this exception, the institutions would show what they have used their money for. How have they, whatever. I remember UPDF brings some good equipment there and they showcase. We have various organizations, and citizens would come and actually consult and find out more about how they can get services better. From about national IDs, NIRA, all those institutions were always there. Yeah, but there is that gap, and it's something that we are working on, continuing to engage the citizens, especially after the budget is executed. During budget execution, we have those avenues, the toll-free lines, the what. We get calls, people tell us about salary delays, about what, and we try to fix these issues. They want me to tell us there are delays in salary, there are delays in service delivery here and there. We fix those. But engagement after the budget, it is something that we are working on strongly together with our partners, Uganda Debt Network and the others, and we thank them. Thank you so much for the work you are doing. So we are not uncomfortable.
Yes. Yeah.
All right, let me just try to ensure that my guy out there understands this. At what point does citizen feedback trigger the alarm bell for the technocrats? How much information is considered? Because Chris again, you can call in from Butaleja and says, you know what, for all these years, there seems to be a consistent problem, flooding. Yeah, and we think this is how it's supposed to be addressed. But that is a lone call. What are the chances that that call can be one that triggers, or rather conditions, the kind of policy rollout that happens? I just want to know how you come up with the fact that, okay, this is how we've gotten this feedback from the public. Is it through calls in? Is it through letters written? And then we are like, we have a huge chunk of people in this particular part of the country who seem to be raising the same issue, and this one must be given particular attention. I know if a lone call comes in on an issue that might be important, and then there are so many calls that come in on an issue that might not be as important as this one, the other one might take sway. So reassure us, how does this,
Thank you.
How do you arrive at some of the decisions?
First of all, when we receive a call, it's a trigger that there is an issue that we need to sort out. Okay. The ministry is big, and of course the whole of government is big. Some of the issues, if they are beyond the ministry, we shall cross them over to the relevant ministry, department, or agency. So when we get a call, for example, about some delayed pension issue, we refer it to the relevant department or office or unit, and they do investigations. They carry out their own investigations. For example, they can get additional information from another source around the same area, from our civil society partners. Are you hearing about this? What is this? What is this we are hearing? What do your teams say? So work together, and in that we obtain information that we can use to take, against which we can use to take action. So it's not that all these issues that come in are recorded, and the report is given to our superiors every week. They are given a comprehensive report of all the cases that came in. But every issue is handled separately, but first it's investigated, and no issue is considered a small issue. Of course, a lot of the issues we've been getting have been consulting. How do we sort out this issue? How do we get supplier numbers? There are a lot of issues that come up. Yes. All right,
Ms. Benijiro, I'm seeing here Uganda's score being 15 out of 100. By any statistical measure, that is appalling. But when you bring it to context, the fact that other countries seem to be either within that range or even below, then it gives Uganda the kind of picture of positivity that it's doing better than the others. The global average score is 15, and Uganda is at 15. Kenya is doing pretty well, 31. Rwanda is at 16. While Tanzania is below Uganda at 13. The rest, 9, 9, 2, here what I see, Madagascar, South Sudan, Comoros, and Burundi. What is the significance of this? 15 out of 100.
Yeah, thank you. And this is specifically in regard to public participation.
Public participation, yeah.
Yes, public participation, Uganda has declined, actually. From
We've
19,
been better than this.
Yes, from 19 out of 100. To 15 out of 100. Now, how these scores are rated, that means if you're below 20, that means the country is not producing any information or scanty information to enable the public make sense of some of these documents and be able to participate. So that would ideally mean that our availability of spaces or information for the public to participate meaningfully is almost not there, is scanty. Nonetheless, we have a transparency score because generally the rating is against the transparency score. Because if a budget is transparent, then ideally you'll have public participation, you'll have oversight institutions working within that area. And so the major parameter against which countries are compared is transparency. You will notice that Uganda's transparency score has improved by 1 point from 58 to 59. And then the oversight mark has grown from 58 to 67. What that means, at 67, the country is producing sufficient information or adequate information to enable public participation. 59, you're producing some information to enable public participation. But while the performance of Uganda is quite good, if I should say, because for this round of the OBS, 125 countries were assessed across the globe, and Uganda was number 44 out of the 145 and 25. But when you come to sub-Saharan Africa, out of the 41 countries that were assessed, Uganda was number 4, after South Africa, Benin, and Zimbabwe.
After Benin?
Yes. Benin was second in sub-Saharan Africa.
Wow.
So, yeah, but when you come to the ESC, then Uganda takes the lead as number 1 out of the 8 ESC countries, and has for quite some time been taking the lead. But nonetheless, when you lift the veil, like you rightly note, we need to do better on public participation. Okay. And there are usually recommendations on what Uganda can do to improve this. So we are looking at spaces for Parliament to engage with the public, mainly Parliament, to invite the public and to also share information as they go out to do the monitoring of the budget. Do we see the reports available on the websites? Okay. Again, we said publicly available has to be on the official website. Because the way this data is collected is quite comprehensive, if you will allow me to just run through it. Because you also asked him why, shouldn't they fear this report? Why should they welcome it? And so we see it is an important report. It is good for them. And of course, it is credible. For government to accept something, there must be some level of confidence.
That's right. And
so while the independent researcher does the data collection guided by a questionnaire that is developed against internationally accepted standards on transparency, financial management, and these are standards of the IMF, standards of the OECD, the PEFA, and the INTOSAI, among others. When we generate this information, it must be accompanied by evidence. For every question out of the 145 questions for the Open Budget Survey questionnaire, you have to have evidence that accompanies each of these questions. And so when the IBP receives this information from the independent researcher, who is Uganda Debt Network in the case for Uganda, then this information is given to a subject matter specialist. Now, in the case for Uganda, it is usually someone from the Ministry of Finance and sometimes someone from Parliament to actually look at this information and qualify it. Is it true?
Basically,
or is it not
mine
true?
the data and come up with meaningful insight.
Exactly. So that peer review process is done by government, and if there is something they do not agree with, then they must rebut that with evidence.
Okay.
And so this process works on evidence, and when this goes and is, you know, they compute and compile this information, it is then availed to the public. It's publicly available on the OBS, on the IBP website. You can actually access the questionnaire that was used. You access all the 145 questions. Interestingly, you can even predict Uganda's score for the next OBS.
You can predict the score.
Yeah.
All right, that's interesting. Mr. Matovu, when you listen to Ms. Birinjiro about independent research, Uganda Data Network is pretty much doing that. But within the workings of government, there must be a body or a unit that pretty much works independently. I don't know whether the Parliamentary Budget Office is what does this right now as an independent fiscal institution.
Yes, it's one of those.
It's one of those.
Yes.
Which are the others, and what is the level of independence? Because when it comes to the way she says it, the ability to be able to mine this data and come out with meaningful insights that do not necessarily look massaged for the benefit of, or for the good of those from government who read them. Which organizations, bodies, units are working on this?
Actually, I think if I got her well, what she said, what she was saying is that the Parliamentary Budget Office looks at the data, even finance, and I think Auditor General.
That office is the one that works right now as the independent fiscal institution on the part of government, right?
Well, you can say the Parliamentary Budget Office is the one that does that role. Okay. But these institutions look at the data, and in case they doubt some elements of the data, they raise objections and raise
to the ministry.
No, to the compiler.
To the compiler, yeah.
Uganda Data Network, and so they raise these issues and submit evidence to the contrary. That you're saying that our citizens are not participating this much, but we are telling you they are participating. In fact, we have had this many whatevers. The reports are here on the website, and we even got feedback from Botareja, from Okotido, and blah, blah, blah.
That's right.
But about which institutions of course, Parliamentary Budget Office is independent and very, very independent. You can see Parliament takes independent decisions about the budget, the various aspects of the analysis.
I'm a journalist. I watch things differently. Okay.
But also, of course, Auditor General's Office is one of those institutions that are independent, which look at government work and criticize or scrutinize it for the better.
Right.
Yes, but for us, we are very, very, we are okay working with Data Network and others.
Okay. All right. We shall be, as we inch closer to the end of the program, I'll be coming to you to take us through some of the finer aspects of the launch. That is later today. But let me first put the veil of something else, which is related to the public itself. Already, me, the citizen, who is either tech savvy, I can afford to open a website or two here and there, I might have problems accessing some of this information. How about the vulnerable communities? I know we have those interest groups that are already disadvantaged or underprivileged. Is there special attention given to them? The blind, the disabled who might not be able to access or be able to be part of these gatherings in case of consultations that are called in regional meetings. How is that taken care of? Because they have critical information to offer that could be helpful in designing policy.
One, we recently launched the Braille version of the Citizens Guide to the Budget, and this is for the blind specifically. We are translating the Citizens Guide to the Budget, working together with our civil society partners. By the way, we don't do this alone, work together with them, Civil Society Budget Advocacy Group and the other. So we are working towards translating the civil society, the budget, the Citizens Guide to the Budget into various languages. Of course, that has resource connotations to it. But it's work in progress. Of course, right now we are having fiscal consolidation in our budget, but we keep engaging these people through their different groups. we have the Women Council, the Youth Council, the various groups. Those who are disabled, we have various groups, and we engage through their leadership organizations, through their leaders, to reach them out, to reach out to them in order to get all their views on all these issues. All right, Madam, the launch today, and whether it's actually value for money going forward. Because we see so many launches in this country,
yes.
And so many things going about. Yeah.
Thank you. Maybe just to add on his point, they also have worked with civil society because of the wider reach to reach as many people as possible.
That's right.
And what we do is simplify, try to make sure the citizen accesses the budget information on time to be able to participate. But today's launch is going to take place from 11 o'clock up to about 1. And we expect the Minister for Finance to be able to preside over the launch.
Okay.
And after the launch, we shall not just dump the report or shelf it. I do not want to say like government does it, because we see that these days they do act. But what we do, we always take on engagements. We have what we call technical working groups on the OBS, and these involve some members from the Ministry of Finance, from the Office of the Auditor General, and from the Parliament, specifically the Parliamentary Budget Office. And why the three institutions? Because they are the ones who are central to the budget process.
That's right. And
so we tease out, we look at the report, the results. We look at what can we do better. What are the recommendations? Can we influence policy so that we can then be able to perform better in the next round? But this information also informs our engagements with citizens. We are able to engage with both government but also with the citizens on comprehensiveness sometimes of these key budget documents. If finance gives us some of these documents, but they are not comprehensive enough, then we don't consider that budget openness or transparency. And so we want to be sure that they are comprehensive, they are easy to understand by the ordinary person or the ordinary citizen, so that they are able to participate. But we also engage to see how do we carry the recommendations further. And this process, by doing this over time, we've been able to see some improvement from the time we had the very first OBS launch in 2006.
2006.
Up to today. This is, today we are launching the 9th edition. During the lifetime, we have seen that we don't want to say it is attributed to us, but we have made contribution. We saw the birth of the Ministry of Finance website, the budget website. We have seen the birth of the CFP, Citizens Feedback Platform. We have seen the Braille version. We have seen improvements in the reporting, quarterly reports, budget performance reports, annual, and many other improvements and good things. And so, yeah. All right, given the fact that this will be the 9th launch, you say, if I were to ask you to, since we are talking about scorecards, yes, when it comes to the recommendations that were issued in the very first one and to this latest, if you were to give government a score out of, let's use 10 for purposes of being, let's use 10. What would you give government in terms of reading and understanding the recommendations in the OBS as they have been released over those years? Yeah, I would probably give a 6 or a 7, And that is good because there is always room for improvement.
Right.
But when you look at the recommendations from the past, it maybe after 2-3 times we don't see them recurring. In other words, we see that government has been keen on making sure that they implement those recommendations.
Okay.
Yeah, like I've said, when one of the recommendations, for example, is that we need to see the public participate in informing the audit processes. Then we see government coming up with a citizens feedback platform and many others. So government has been responsive, largely responsive.
All right, Mr. Charles Matova, toast to that. All right, my guests, we're going to have to take a break right now, but when we return, we shall continue this conversation and take the opportunity to look at the budget itself in light of the fact that anytime now we shall be hearing from the Minister for Finance, who will be speaking on behalf of the President in as far as the budget for 2023 2024-2025 is concerned. That will be coming up after the break, plus a lot more on aspects of open budget surveys. Do stay with us. We'll be right back. Welcome back. I'm glad you're still with us here on Morning at NTV. It's the extended version of the Kickstarter, and we are examining the open budget survey and the role of the legislature as well as the supreme audit institutions in the budget process. We've been threshing down exactly how the public participation can be achieved to the optimum, the ability for you and me to be part of this particular process. There were concerns about the fact that the planning stage is, well, where the citizens are welcome, but things turn a little bit secretive when it comes to implementation. Whether that should change, well, remains to be seen. The how and the when will be discussed. As we enter the final segment of our discussion this morning, I would like to delve into the national budget proper. And before we came back on set or on air, I was trying to push the question, shouldn't Uganda focus on areas that are critical and try to solve some of the problems within there? Of course, not necessarily neglecting the rest, because the economy and any one country is a massive value chain that works in an interconnected way. But the tendency for us to look at industrialization, value addition, infrastructure development, taxation on an annual basis seems to be a little bit confusing to the layman. But I have with me in studio a public policy, a principal economist at the Ministry of Finance, Mr. Charles Matovu. He's responsible for budget policy and evaluation, no doubt. He will help us understand why the government chooses to go all out when it could actually focus on a few areas and then finish that, dedicate another year to something else and another year to something else, so that in 10 years' time, we are able to go for critical areas and push all resources that are needed within that. We also have in studio Christine Biringiro. She is the programs manager at the Uganda Debt Network. And like the organization sounds, Uganda is grappling with debt. As I speak right now, we are at 96.1 trillion Uganda shillings. That is our debt. If you want things to look more meaningful, that represents 52% of our gross domestic product. For economists, that is not stuff for good reading. Let me begin with Mr. Charles Batovu on the budget. Where we are right now, we are waiting for the Minister for Finance, who will be reading the budget any time now, ahead of the State of the Nation address. But like I asked the question, budget priorities are something that I cannot lay claim on in terms of knowledge. But when I see the lack of consistency, which is consistency on your part as government, because you keep doing this, wouldn't we be better focusing on a few areas and tell ourselves, if education is our problem and we seem to be legislating and in and out of some of these problems, can't we focus on realigning that department? Then if things are running really well there, then we go for this, we go for another. After 10 years or 15, we can say we've worked exclusively on 4 areas of the economy, and then the rest that pick from how well these work can continue to be worked on. I do not know, but that is a layman's understanding of matters. How do these things work? Shouldn't that be an approach that can be sustainable?
Thank you. I think since you've said the layman's perspective of how...
I do a disclaimer because somebody might think I'm a subject matter expert when I'm not.
Yes. So let's look at your home. How do you budget and run the budget for your home? You can't focus on one area of your home's issues.
Let me give you an example. Yes. Since you've asked at your home, how do you do it? I identify what is our most pressing problem. Our most pressing problem that might affect the way other things run is rent. If I haven't paid rent, it means I'll be stressed. So the idea is to choose and say, let me find money and pay for 6 months. And then I ensure that within these 6 months, my focus is not on running around to see whether the landlord is in his house or not, but to focus on other areas.
Yes.
That is what I'm trying to say.
Very good. And as you pay rent, people are still eating.
People are eating.
Those who are sick are taken to hospital.
Yes, we can choose to say, instead of eating meat, eggs and milk on a daily, why don't we do a meal plan that comes out with either simsim on Monday, dodo on Tuesday, meat on Wednesday, and then another thing on Thursday, and so on. Then we choose, for purposes of health, instead of going to an expensive health center, which I can't afford, why don't the children do eat or do a diet that helps me stave off sickness? That is how things go. Exactly. I don't know whether government should act like that or it's a different...
It's already acting like that. One, of course, the basics we are taken care of. In the budget, the basics are taken care of.
That's right.
Basics which are a must, like utilities, like rent for some agencies and government departments that rent, salaries. There are those statutory payments which are taken care of as a baseline. That is now taking, it's like your rent, the rent issue that you talked about. But government and the NRM government assessed, I think, some time, and so that one of the major deficits in this country is infrastructure.
Infrastructure, yeah.
That is for electricity, transport infrastructure, and the like. So the focus for some time has been on that area. Of course, without neglecting others, because others run around infrastructure, they benefit from the infrastructure development. Agriculture, and that's why you see our theme is on full monetization of economy through commercial agriculture, industrialization, expanding and broadening services, digital transformation, and market access. So infrastructure
it's a mouthful.
Yes, but you see, and we've had that theme for 5 years now.
Imagine.
Because we want to finish, we want to first handle that area. The strategy you're using, you're saying, is actually what we are using. We want to first handle that area of infrastructure access. Of course, there are some constants, like security will be a constant. We need a secure environment. That is right. Now I heard that Manyas who want to plan to do this. And so there are all those challenges, but those are constants. But actually the strategy for the budget has always been, for the past 5 years of this NDP, the period that we are going to end, has been that focus on agro-industrialization, on infrastructure development, industrialization and broadening services and all that. So, but even as we do that, we can't neglect the children have to go to school, those who are under UPE, the teachers have to be paid, the health workers have to be paid. You had their salaries were enhanced in order to enhance service delivery. They have to be paid. So all those things have to take place, even amidst the environment we are in of a constrained resource envelope. But of course, we are working within the environment, and that's why the government, the Ministry of Finance, is pursuing a fiscal consolidation strategy to make sure that we work within our resources, but work towards fulfilling the theme that we've set out for the past 5 years.
All right, that's what you shall be coming back to, how you're exactly going to achieve that as a government. But Ms. Christine Birinjiro, listening to Mr. Charles Matovu, I don't want to say it's a broken record. Government always says the things and how it's ensuring that this is worked upon and stuff like that. But our debt is well into the roof right now, 96.1 trillion. How we are going to be able to service that debt, it's into our ability to manage our own budget and be able to do the things that Mr. Charles Matovu says government wants to do. Have you been able to interface at collaborative level with government unadvised? I'm sure they're reading many of the reports as they'll be reading the open budget survey. Is it possible to even begin to do the things the way we, the citizens, might want things to be done? Because it's possible.
On whether it is possible or not, I'll first give you this scenario, and then we shall then tease out
first,
on
we
the
have
possibility.
The money. That's why it's possible.
Yes, you have the money. One, we have seen government, first of all, come up with this financial year's budget. I think NBFP, we started at 53 trillion, 53, then it went to 58, went to 60, I think 2, then 68, and finally we are coming to 72. So this reflects badly on the planning and you know, preparedness of government. You know, if you want to plan, just, you know, plan properly. But when we see these figures are jumping and we don't see them going down from 72 to maybe 68, so this leaves some questions in our minds and about the planning, you know, not abilities, but the seriousness of government as they plan for the country. But then again, when you talked about our debt, yes, it is shooting through the roof. And from the 72 trillion shillings, we see that we are expecting about 32 trillion from the Uganda Revenue Authority to be able to, you know, contribute to the basket that is going to finance the budget. But we also see that our debt obligation is 34 trillion. And like he rightly mentioned, and you too, that when you have your budget at home, you'll first consider rent. So the 34 trillion is actually off before you think of anything else. That is not yours. It is what you owe. It is not yours. Yeah. So if we remove the 34, literally, if you remove the 34 from the 32, you'll do the mathematics. I don't know the balance, what remains to then run the rest of government. But then, of course, we know that government will definitely do some borrowing, and which is okay, to finance the budget. Our major point of interest or concern is that we have seen government do borrowing, you know, but this has not been responsible borrowing. What have we used the money that we are borrowing for? You know, he has talked about investment in infrastructure over a long period of time. But I usually want to refer to some World Bank report in 2016, where, and indeed the Ministry of Finance as well, where they acknowledge that for every dollar that is invested in Uganda's capital infrastructure, we generate 0.7 of a dollar. That is not even $1 worth, you know. And so compared to the others, of course, but that leaves a lot to be desired. This ends up accumulating more debt for the country, because if we cannot generate the return that we need to be able to pay back this debt, then we are in problems. We are in serious problems. But then again, when you also look at are we able to then live within our means as a country? As reading the minority report for Parliament on the budget, and there's quite a number of things that came out and were concerning. I know he will say, as government, we do not look at the minority report. We want to consider the main report, but there are quite a number of things that came out of that report, and if they are true, which I want to believe they are true, otherwise they wouldn't have made it in public and by Parliament at that. It is it is quite a pity.
Would you love to raise 2 or 3 of those particular issues for response?
Yeah, you have, for example, the State House budget with over 1,000, I think, employees. And some of those that are benefiting, you know, like the past vice presidents, the past prime ministers, you know, a whole line, and they are still on the salary list, 20 million, and then, you know, it is quite, you know, alarming, especially in view of the fact that we seem to be wallowing in so much debt.
Now, just to be very specifically clear on that, most countries across the globe have emoluments and pension or some kind of stipend that they do offer leaders who have governed before. I think the concern is on the budget itself. For example, if a past president, a past prime minister or vice president occupies another position within the government, either as an advisor and is already entitled to services and products including furniture and cars and a house, either do we suggest that they relinquish the privileges of a former prime minister, or you want that slashed drastically to bring them to a point where they can't afford their life? Because many of them, by the time they leave office, I don't think they take the catalogue of 5,000 like Chris. Theirs is around 25, if they take it anyway.
Yeah, but now we are talking, well, I'll give you an example. I wouldn't want to say that they should relinquish the privileges that are associated with their former office. I'll just give an example, and this is just an example of the former Speaker for Parliament, Dr. Sekandi, who has to receive benefits as a former Deputy Speaker.
Former Deputy Speaker.
As a former Speaker, as a former Vice President. And now he is...
He's still an MP?
No, I don't know if he's still an MP. But, you know, by this time we are still providing in the budget about 3 vehicles for the same person. You know, there's a bill that we don't, there's something that is reasonable, especially in view of our budget, really.
All right, that's down to another problem altogether that comes to how people get to political office when they are appointed and whether they can be reappointed. Because if Chris Higenyi is, if at all at any one point in time, Nation Media Group says a former presenter on Morning at NTV, I would gladly take it, no doubt about that. Yes. I would also gladly take it as a former reporter, you know. But anyway, you understand the concerns that she's raising. It's really concerning to the citizen out there when one individual takes home so much, yet there is another who is hardly making life on a daily basis. I think that is where the whole issue is. It's eye-tearing when you know that almost 1 trillion Uganda shillings goes to one individual for a month, and you can't even find 1,000 Uganda shillings.
1 trillion goes to which one individual?
No, as in if you put together the fact that somebody is a former deputy speaker, is a former speaker, former vice president, an MP, by the month end, trust me, there's a lot of money. And we do
appreciate that these are policies. They are of course, it is backed by the law. But I think we need to review and revise some of these policies, especially in view of, you know, of our economy and our budgets. We need to revise some of these policies. Yes.
But of course, we must thank you for that. Those concerns are noted, but we have to take note of the fact that governments everywhere in the world take care of their past leaders.
That's right.
When the former US president,
former leaders, not past leaders.
Okay, they are former leaders. when former president of US Barack Obama comes, he will come with security of the United Secret Service of the United States and all that, plus a number of packs. You get it? Yes, downgraded, but it's still there. There is something for him. All those, let it be senators or former senators, so they are taken care of in some way. Now about legislating how we should take care of them, it's probably some discussion that we can have even in Parliament. As you're aware, Parliament is one that listens to the people. But maybe to talk a bit about our debt. of course, our debt it's sustainable, but it's of course like you noted, it's quite above what we've had previously. But what are we borrowing for? We have a strategy to grow the economy in double-digit form, tenfold. So we want to grow the economy. We are borrowing mainly to grow the economy to take us to where we would want to be. And it's good anytime. Next year, I think, we are going to launch the NDP, the next NDP. Yes, NDP 4. And we expect that during that period, we shall be able, during that period and the next 5 years after that, we shall be able to leapfrog this economy to another level altogether, away from even the current middle income level. So wow. we are working towards that. There are challenges. The fiscal environment is constrained. There were challenges brought about by COVID, by the wars, by a number of various factors. But we are working towards growing the economy faster so that it can be able to take care of the debt that we have obtained and accumulated over time. We take note of all those various studies which are saying that we need to do better. And I think for us as government, the important thing is we want to see how we can even make things better for the common man. Okay, yes.
That is a good one. Making things better for the common man. I'll give the last word to Christine Birinjiro. Where is the launch going to happen, and who is invited? Who can make their way there? I hope no need get crashers also might be thinking.
Yeah, so the launch is going to take place today from 11 up to 1 p.m. at Serena in Addis Hall. And we have invited guests from civil society, from government, Ministry of Finance, and other MDAs, NBM partners, and the media, of course. Yes,
and have to tell that story.
Yes, yeah, and this will also be aired on YouTube. It will be live streaming, but yeah, I'm sure you'll get the information. It will be shared on all the stations, radio stations, television stations, but also on social media platforms. Yes.
All right, Christine Birinjiro, Program Manager at Uganda Debt Network, many thanks for that last word, and many thanks to you too. Charles Matovu, Principal Economist, Budget Policy and Evaluation Desk at the Ministry of Finance, Planning and Economic Development. It was emboldening, and we now understand a few issues that might have been grey, especially when it comes to the policy implementation, but most importantly, aspects of public participation in the budget process. That's it for our Kickstarter. It's been a pleasure having your company. As always, I'm Chris Higenyi. We're going to say goodbye for now, but I'll be back tomorrow, and of course, the conversations will continue. And here we are, not only a breakfast show, but your companion Monday to Friday. It's been a pleasure. Have a good day.